My name's Jane Willis. I'm the Director of Arts and Health Consultancy, Willis Newson. We use the arts and creativity to support health and wellbeing, but in particular we commission artists to work alongside architects on the design and development of healthcare environments. For the new Southmead Hospital Bristol, we worked with the developers Carillion, the architects BDP and North Bristol NHS Trust to look at how we could integrate the work of artists into the fabric of the building.
It's been a journey that started in 2005, so 9 years ago we started work, first putting pen to paper as to what we wanted to achieve. It was a really important decision for us to think about the whole holistic design when we were coming up with what we wanted. We had 6 key design criteria, and within that was this idea that if we could create interest, distraction and put in some really high quality art, that was really going to benefit patients and the environment. The particular work that we've been doing here is about those very high quality, internationally renowned artists coming here and delivering something amazing. So the one here across the 3 atria we have running right the way through the sort of spine of the hospital is produced by Tobias Rehberger.
I think the 3 atria spaces, they're monumental spaces, they're large, impressive spaces to work with. So we needed somebody who had vision and creativity to respond to a challenge of that size.
It's amazing artwork based on neon sculpture, and it's the quirkiness of it is actually a binary clock, and you can actually tell the time. So it's a sequence of neon circles, verticals and horizontals, and using those you can actually work out what the time is.
They work under the system that you have 12 objects that show you the hours, so from 1 o'clock till 12 o'clock. You have 5 objects that are the same, that show you the 10 minutes, and then you have 9 objects that show you the single minutes, and with these 26 objects you can show all the times we have on a normal clock.
But that's its quirkiness. Actually it operates as a piece of beautiful artwork that enlivens the space, but it also creates this lovely distraction because people will look at it and they'll say, okay, well what does that mean? How are we going to be able to tell the time from that?
This idea that something is a kind of functional object while it doesn't propose that at the first moment, that's something I'm interested in generally.
Being mindful of the passing of time, I think, helps to connect you when you're in hospital with the wider world outside of hospital. So maybe you can't see the moon rise in the sky, but somehow if you're aware of the passing of time and the changing of the day, that's something that's quite important. The outside spaces of the hospital were important to us. We wanted to really emphasise them because there's a huge wealth of evidence about the importance of nature and the impact that has on health and well-being. In consultation, patients and staff and visitors told us that water was really important. So we invited Peter Randall-Page to create a water feature for the medical day garden.
Inevitably, there's a certain amount of anxiety associated with hospitals, whether you're a patient or a visitor. And one of my initial thoughts was very much that I wanted to make something which was calming and meditative, and using water and stone together I've always found extremely tranquil and pleasant.
There's a really healing nature to water, and to have a public garden with patients, visitors, staff in there, just hearing that sort of slight bubbling I thought would be really quite important.
Working in the way that I've worked on that particular piece, I chose a river wash boulder that was actually unearthed near where I live here on the edge of Dartmoor. And I've retained the natural eroded shape of the stone, made a hole through the centre of it, and then carved simple sort of grooves, if you like, creating this sort of ribbed quality for the water to flow over.
In that same space, Jaqueline Poncelet was commissioned to help us create actual spaces for sitting. We felt it was important to think about how to place seating so that people could sit either individually, if they wanted to be on their own, or in small groups.
I designed a series of screens, metal screens, because I thought that if you're sitting in the garden and you're not in the best state of mind, you might enjoy some privacy while also enjoying being outside. I want the appearance to be serving a function. So I wanted the screens to be perforated so that the nurses would be able to see the patients. Because you're really thinking that you want a place where people can either turn in on themselves and think whatever thoughts they need to have, or you offer them something that would take them out of themselves and be a distraction.
There are 3 courtyard spaces that open off the concourse of the hospital. They're not public spaces, you can't go and wander around these gardens, and they're there to let light into the wards of the hospital. We thought it was quite important to put some art in them to give people something to look at, but also to create an identity for each of the 3 courtyards. So we invited Jaime Hayon to think about what he might want to do with those courtyards, and we gave him all 3 spaces to work with.
For the works for the hospital, for me, it was really important to give a positive message and to give something that will sort of bring hope in a way or another, you know, to people, and bring like sort of like good energy. You know, those characters, when you look at them, there's a certain humor. You know, you have the head, you have the nose being long. You don't know if you're looking at the little Pinocchio or a guy with 2 ears.
Jaime Hayon's artwork is really interesting because it elicits so many questions about what it is. We've had so many people saying, are they vases, are they bottles, are they Daleks? What are they? And I think that's great because it creates a conversation.
But you see what you want to see. That's basically the point of it. But at the end of the day, they're definitely set of characters. Each one represents something, and that something is up to you to look at it and feel what it gives you.
Ali Wallace had quite a difficult space to work with. There was one courtyard in the hospital which isn't accessible to patients and visitors. It's mainly viewed from above, with people from a waiting area looking down on it. So we wanted to put an artwork in the courtyard to really give visual interest and to bring it to life.
I wanted it to look like something that had just kind of plonked itself there from the sky, and it wasn't really part of the hospital. I wanted it to look a little bit like a kind of optical illusion. I designed it so that it would look as though the discs were just kind of floating above the vegetation. I was very aware of the fact that it was in a hospital, and it needed to be something that was quite lightweight conceptually, that if you were there as a visitor or a member of staff or a patient, you would get it in different ways. You might just look out the window and do a double take and smile to yourself that looked quite nice, or that might be enough.
Another important part of the hospital to address was the landscape around the hospital, and Laura Ford was invited to create a series of works which would act as landmarks throughout the landscape around the hospital. Laura responded to this invitation by coming up with a series of bronzes that will be all animals, but they're patients, they're injured animals.
It's supposed to be slightly humorous, supposed to be something that one could have empathy with. I just remember when my son was very ill, and the thing that actually helped him stop thinking about his ailments was to go around and look at all these posters of other illnesses, and somehow his empathy with them took his mind off what was wrong with him.
I love Laura's work because without being twee and saccharine, it's really engaging, and people respond to the animals in a very humane and warm way. I think also she hasn't shied away from the very real and actual experience of people using a hospital.
Well, yes, they're a way of talking about human problems and human thoughts without having a specific human there. So you can talk in a way more generally. And you have, I suppose, more empathy for the person because he's just this cute bear.
We want people to come in from the moment they come through our gateways onto the site. We want that experience to be as good as it can be, and that's about coming into the hospital, seeing the greenery, seeing the gardens, seeing the artwork and being able to enjoy them. And for me that's all the part of diffusing stress and anxiety. And I think that can only be done with artwork and with landscape and with greenery.
One of the big successes of this project, which has been a real team effort, is that we've not just integrated art into the fabric of the building to create an environment for patients, visitors and staff that's welcoming, reassuring, supportive, but we've also embedded arts and creativity into the life of the hospital.